tattle, inform on, squeal, snitch, rat out. Those are some of the terms being thrown around to describe a new proposal from the Winnipeg Parking Authority. The plan would give you, the public, the power to report illegally parked vehicles by submitting photos. So far, the proposal is not popular.
I think it might actually be very, very disastrous.
Councillor Janice Lukes is the chair of the Public Works Committee. She's all in for enforcing parking rules, but this type of approach is concerning.
People don't like receiving tickets, and in the past, when officers have been issuing them or commissionaires have been issuing them, there has been confrontations, and I don't think the average citizen should be dealing with that.
I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is Manitoba. On today's episode, we're going to dive into the Parking Authority's plan, and we're going to try to understand why people are so against it. Now, for the time being, this proposal is being ditched. The City Council's Public Works Committee voted against it, but the chair said it could be explored in the future. The fact is, this has been explored in the past. It's not the first time that people in our province have been encouraged to tell on their neighbours for any number of reasons. A couple of different North End communities, first Point Douglas in 2007 and now William White, have launched phone lines where residents can report suspected crime.
Daryl Warren says drug use and violent crime are taking over the William White community. He's president of the William White Community Association and has lived in the area for more than 60 years. Recently, he decided to start an anonymous tip line to help combat crime in the area.
People will be able to call into a line and report suspicious activity, whether it be drug deal or somebody breaking into houses or stuff like that.
It's called the Power Line. Organizers say it's a community-driven approach that empowers the people who actually live in the area. During pandemic lockdowns, for another example, the province also opened up a special tip line for Manitobans to report rule breakers. Remember that? The COVID-19 tip line got hundreds of thousands of calls about parties, visitors, unsanctioned social gatherings, all during the height of the virus's spread. And then if you go further back, 25 years ago, the provincial government in Manitoba, under NDP leader Gary Dewar at the time, got in hot water over a welfare fraud tip line. It cost $30,000 a year to run, and it was set up by the previous Conservative provincial government led by Premier Gary Filmon in 1994.
While in opposition, the NDP called the tip line an attack on the poor. But after 4 months in office, the NDP hasn't hung up on the phone line yet.
Having a phone number that could be a general information number, for example, and also receive concerns may not be a bad idea.
It was a bad idea for the NDP in 1995. New Democrat Doug Martindale told the legislature the phone line allowed neighbours to squeal on neighbours. We used to associate this kind of surveillance with the Stasi police in East Germany, but now we have it in Manitoba.
They led a lot of their voters to believe that they would get rid of the line.
Conservative Myrna Dreger doesn't think they should get rid of it.
I mean, the line has shown huge success. It's been saving $2.7 million a year.
Good afternoon, Welfare Fraud Line.
More than 16,000 people have phoned the tip line. About 1 in 5 calls results in someone's benefits being cancelled or reduced. The minister says he's reviewing whether to keep the tip line, but won't commit to eliminating it.
I think that has to be balanced with a concern for accountability.
But many activists for the poor and unemployed say it should go. If not, the NDP risks alienating some of its usual supporters, like Joan Johansson, who was once an NDP candidate.
If that phone line doesn't go out when they bring down, this is what our new system is going to be, I'm going to be extremely upset.
Whatever the minister decides, the debate over the welfare fraud line contains a lesson in politics. The Conservative critic says politicians must be held equally accountable for what they do in government and what they say in opposition. Vera Lynn Kubanek, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The province did eliminate the welfare fraud tip line later that year, 2000. But given the track record and all the pros and cons associated with each of those cases, it's maybe not surprising that people have mixed feelings about this latest idea. A spokesperson says the Parking Authority is in the very early stages of exploring this, and it would only be used if no officers were available or if the vehicle was gone by the time officials arrived. And people already have the option, of course, to send in photos. But as it stands, an enforcement officer still has to investigate before a ticket's sent to a driver. So this new proposal says tickets could be given out based on photos alone. And that could be problematic, at least according to Len Eastoe. He's a former police officer and he's the founder of Traffic Ticket Experts. He spends a lot of time helping people fight traffic tickets in court. While he mostly deals with Highway Traffic Act violations like speeding and stop signs and red lights in his work, he says he sees some problems with this idea.
Well, I guess my main concern is that we're putting people or encouraging people who have no training on how to de-escalate a situation that they may find themselves in while taking a picture of someone's vehicle, and that person may become upset. I don't think we should be putting the public in that sort of a position or encouraging them that way. The Parking Authority hires people to issue parking tickets, and I'm assuming gives them training to de-escalate situations that they find themselves in. That's my main concern with this. I just don't think we need it. I don't think we want to put people in any sort of confrontation with another citizen just because we can't get our facility or our parking authority people out there to deal with it on time. I don't think that's the way to go here. It's dangerous for people at times, and in today's society, that's not the route that we should be looking at.
How could photo evidence from a citizen play out if someone did decide to challenge a parking ticket, and you're the one that took that initial photo that caused the enforcement?
I'm sure the Parking Authority has a process for all of that. I don't exactly know, or whether there's actual legislation allowing them to do this, or whether that's going to be required. But there's certainly going to be some hoops they're going to have to jump through with this. And people, whether they take the picture, they may have to then justify down the road, whether it's through a court process or some sort of board that the Parking Authority uses to determine whether these tickets are legitimate or not.
Beyond those long-term concerns that Eastoe has with the proposal, there also just seems to be a sense that, well, it's unfriendly. As CBC's Felicia Adam heard from Winnipeggers, that's a problem.
Seems kind of mean-spirited. If it was, blocking an accessible doorway or entrance for someone, I could totally see that working well. But if it's just, they didn't leave me enough space or whatever, then, these things happen.
If it's inconveniencing me, maybe, but I wouldn't go as far as to do it immediately. If I start seeing it as a big problem, then yeah, I might take that action.
It's not gonna work, no. Who's gonna take a picture, stop and take a picture for the city with, give description for the car, license number, blah, blah, blah,
Depending on the situation, if it's dangerous or if I think it's interfering in other people's life, then I would do it. If it's in the middle of the road and then it's blocking someone else, then I would do that. But if it's on the side and it's not, then I might not do that.
The Parking Authority pitched its plan at the Public Works budget meeting, and the committee voted to recommend not going ahead with it. As I mentioned, the chair of City Council's Public Works Committee said, not right now, but maybe it will make a return in the future. So where did the plan go wrong? Arthur Schaefer is the director of the Centre for Professional and Applied Ethics at the University of Manitoba. He shared his take on the lukewarm reaction.
I must say, I was startled and interested by the overwhelmingly negative response. Editorials in the newspaper, letters to the editor, opinion columns, callers to your show and other radio shows. And almost everyone, upon hearing the proposal, reacted by saying, snitch, rat. They're asking us to become very unpleasant people. So that was interesting. And I think I understand it. And I think there's something true and important in people's reaction, but I think it needs to be it should be a little more nuanced.
Nuanced in what way?
Well, you could see this as part of community policing. So we already in most communities have neighborhood watch. If someone suspicious is happening, neighbors undertake to make our own community safer by reporting things that seem suspicious, potentially dangerous, potentially antisocial. Similarly with block parents, if a kid's in trouble, we take responsibility for each other. And I think that's important. I think our actions as part of solidarity with our neighbors, with our community, is really important. We can't just rely on police. But the reason this parking photo proposal, my view, the reason it got such a negative reaction is because it's proposed to use it for really trivial offenses. So they're not inviting people to send in photos for serious parking offenses, the kind that might endanger pedestrians, endanger motorists, endanger cyclists. But, somebody's misparked in a comparatively harmless way, they're inviting us to participate. And I think people reacted negatively because this would surely, if it became widespread, it would undermine our sense of community cohesion, our sense of solidarity with others. We really would be looking at our neighbors as maybe wanting in a nasty or malicious way to harm us. And that would undermine community solidarity. We all of us rely on our neighbors. You slip on the ice, bash your head, you need assistance. If people don't trust each other, they walk by. So it's a really important social resource that we have a high level of community trust. And reporting trivial parking offenses of your neighbors or even of strangers is more likely to undermine community trust than it is to promote social cohesion.
It's interesting because there has been a lot of reaction. We heard from one of the city councillors, Janice Lukes, who said doesn't like the idea, but she's open to hearing what the parking authority is going to say this week. We also heard from Len Eastoe, who works at fighting traffic tickets for people. He was worried, he's a former police officer, about people not realizing what they're getting into. Like, if you are the person that reports this and police ticket, the said car owner that parked the wrong way, you end up in court then. Like, you have to follow through with that case. How worried should we be about misuse of the system? Like people reporting not out of, this is a hazard, but maybe out of anger or bias or even conflict?
Yeah, I don't know that would be a major worry. It's something that could happen, but then someone could phone the police or phone the parking authority and have them come out, and the motive could be malicious. Look, in a way, I think our reaction has been, as a community, has been somewhat exaggerated. This is not the East German Stasi where we all become secret police spying on each other, and it's not Big Brother. The punishment is presumably a minor fine. So I would caution people not to overreact. On the other hand, I'm really pleased that people have a sense of community and that we don't want to be turned against each other. I think people recognize that community solidarity is an important value. We often don't think about it unless we get into trouble, and then we realize living in a community that hangs together and that looks after each other is a really precious social resource for all of us.
If you had to advise the city, what would you advise them at this point? Proceed or drop this idea?
Well, the idea as put forward was related to trivial parking offenses. I would just drop that. The stakes are low. If somebody reports a car that's misparked and the parking authority doesn't have an inspector to come, so somebody got away with it. On the other hand, for serious offenses where people are placing their car or driving in a way that endangers the public, I mean, if you see your neighbor stagger drunk out of the house and get into the car, if someone is speeding through a red light and putting the lives and safety of others at risk, then I think our role as community-minded citizens is to assist the police.
Well, that's it for this week of This is Manitoba. If you liked what you heard, you can share it around, tell a friend. Come on, you can snitch on us. We post a new episode each and every week. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening. I'm Marcy Marcusa.